Let's talk about PayPal stocks. I'll tell you about volatility. Let's look at the volatility smile, as well as historical volatility. I'll definitely show you the 3D volatility, and we'll build a strategy around this company. I'll also talk about its potential. I've already shown this chart in a previous video related to this company, where we noticed that it closely resembles the stock price. Initially, the stock rose sharply, which we saw in February. Then it fell, similarly reflected in the chart, followed by another rise. Then there's a growth phase for the company, as we see another spike in June 2021, followed by a significant downturn. Could the final point have been in October 2023? It's hard to say, but we'll discuss it further. Let's immediately touch on the volatility. What's happening here? The implied volatility hasn't risen or fallen significantly. It's been around 40% for quite some time. Let's switch to the volatility smile right away. I always look at it for a more accurate analysis. I'll highlight all the strikes at once. As we see, the closer strikes have volatility increasing in both directions, upward and downward. As for the longer dated strikes, they are flat, both in the put and call directions. Indeed, we can draw a good conclusion from this and build a fairly robust strategy based on volatility. Let's focus on historical and implied volatilities first. Historical volatility is represented by the gray line, while implied volatility is the white line. As we can see, implied volatility is slightly higher than its historical values. As I always say, volatility tends to revert to its historical values sooner or later. Therefore, it should decrease slightly. And as researchers, we can build a strategy not on the rise or fall of the stock, but solely on changes in volatility. In this case, on the decrease in volatility. However, since the difference here is not very large, there may not be much profit to be made. Let's look at the strikes and trading volume. We have a very large volume concentrated around the $66 level, as well as $65. These are for calls. For puts, it's $65 and $59. Additionally, we have a large volume concentrated in the nearest weeks. For now, that's the situation. Let me remind you that the stock is actually profitable. It's part of the SP 500, but its indicators are of course very poor. As we can see, over the past year, all stocks have grown significantly. It's the worst performing stock in the financial sector, unless we're talking about regional bank stocks. If we compare it to MasterCard, it significantly lags behind these companies. Let's get back to building a strategy. This is where volatility comes into play. What can it tell us? Professionals will immediately understand what's happening here. Let's try to build some smart strategy and position. I've come up with an interesting strategy. If the stock is trading sideways between $60 and $70, we'll make $300. Yes, if the stock is at $50 or $80, we'll incur losses. But further on, if the stock drops or rises significantly, we essentially have unlimited profit potential. However, again, this option strategy needs to be managed. I strongly advise against opening this position exclusively. Because it needs to be managed, you need to buy the necessary option, sell the necessary option, adjust your position. Perhaps you'll need to add stocks. If you don't know how to handle options, absolutely do not open this position. It's solely for demonstration purposes to show what can be done here. Let's get back to PayPal stocks. Again, I'll remind you of my philosophy. I can't predict price movements. I don't know where the stock will go. I earn through intelligent position management. In other words, I structure my portfolio in such a way that no matter where the stock goes, I make money. Based on this picture, either we've already passed the depression stage or this stage will continue for a long time, maybe another year, but predicting here is very difficult. I also want to remind you that soon, when I get monetization on YouTube, I'll launch a new experiment where I'll direct all income from the YouTube channel to a new account, where I'll build a portfolio from scratch. I'll show everything absolutely transparently: what I buy, what I sell, what positions I open, how I build the logic of position management. To not miss the start of this experiment, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can start this experiment sooner. Let's go back to PayPal stocks. Again, soon we will need to look at the report from this company, see what they announce, their profits and business growth indicators, all of which will need to be taken into account. Also, again, if you believe in this company, if you are a long-term investor, then if the stock continues to rise, I can totally imagine it hitting new high. If the business continues to grow, then I suppose a new peak for this stock is possible, which could mean a significant increase of almost 400%. But again, this won't happen in a year or two. It might take time. But again, if you're a patient investor, if you know how to wait, you can definitely make a profit. I also advise you to watch my previous videos on PayPal stocks, where I discussed this company, touched on positions, and speculated on what might happen with it. Good luck to everyone.